Hey everyone, welcome back to D Squared Stories, an audio fiction podcast bringing you short serialized weekly stories. We're moving on to Chapter 3 of Fun Facts and Psychic Possession Attacks today. Without any further ado, let's get into a quick recap and then get started. Last time, Tango Foxtrot, my new rival, put me into a tough spot where they tricked me into taking over Colin and revealing details of how I do it. I invaded the mind of Tommy Fracasso, someone who I thought could have potentially been TF, but it turns out he just has a interesting relationship with his girlfriend. Hopping into her mind, I was able to watch Tommy interact with the real TF, who revealed plans to recover Goosmart security tapes from the day I took over Ralph. I rushed over there and launched Operation Lunchtime, where I possessed the manager and deleted the tapes. On a bit of a side quest, I also got Sasha's number. This proved to be less of a victory than I might have thought when she showed up in my apartment and revealed herself to be the real identity of Tango Foxtrot. Chapter 3. How I found out Eric was the mind controller and tracked him down. Following my encounter with you at Goosmart, I knew something was off. Ralph was acting like a completely different person partway through, and you were knocked completely cold from a single punch. At first, there was nothing I could do without seeming crazy. However, color me shocked when that same night, a big streamer seems to break down on stream and blames it on someone controlling his mind. I even watched the stream live, and the reason for that is because... Fun fact number 1. I've been on a long-term mission to infiltrate the ranks of Colin's moderation team for the past few months. Hold on, I said, interrupting her. I'm on like 14 fun facts at this point. We need a different name for your system. She looked at me perturbed, as if I was the one ruining her perfectly refined list of fun facts pertaining to an oddly specific set of powers. Okay, she said. How about interesting info number 1. When I revealed to Colin that I knew how you took control of his mind, he instantly believed me because it was so specific. Interesting info number 2. When you handed me your cell phone and put my number in, I shared your location with me so I could follow you here. That's better, I guess, I said. I need you to back up, though. Why were you trying to infiltrate Colin's moderation team? What was your aim in finding me? She looked at me intently. I saw her examine every inch of my face, trying to decide whether or not it would be safe right now to answer either of those questions. I had half a mind to take control of her mind right now. But I knew, given how she outsmarted me at every step, that it might not be a good idea. She could be recording me. Worse, she could have led Colin's fanboy thugs right to me as backup. I waited for her answer. I'll tell you once I'm sure I can trust you, she said. It's unfortunately tied to the second question as well. I raised my eyebrow. I was a bit agitated. Then just tell me you can't tell me anything. Don't make a whole meal out of it. She shrugged. It's just in my nature to overcomplicate things. Damn. She really is a perfect woman. Anyway, I can tell you what's next, though, she said. I want to team up with you. But to do that, I need to learn a little bit about your powers. Well, that I'm also very curious as to what the limits of them are. Would you mind if our first date we experimented a little? She winked at me. Now it felt like she was trying too hard. No experimentation needed, I said. I happen to have an incredibly detailed system of logging limits of my powers in my head. What I myself am curious about is what are the reasons that I shouldn't use them to just take control of you and get you to do something to get you institutionalized. She pouted. No, Eric, sweetie, don't do that. That's a terrible way to start a relationship. Plus, all of the details up until now are shared with an online friend of mine. A smart girl always lets her friends know where she's going when she goes on a first date. She smiled at me and rested her elbow on my counter, and leaned her head into her hand, tilting it as she looked at me playfully. She seemed to be genuinely enjoying this little game. I would be lying if I said I was having no fun. I let out a little chuckle and shook my head. All right, TF, I figured you had something up your sleeve, I said. What do you want to know about my powers? She opened the door and waved me over. Follow me. Let's walk a bit. Just a second. I downed most of my coffee and grabbed my sandwich. This was the tuna hoagie with sweet peppers, spinach, and avocado that I got last time. I know it has been a week since the last chapter, so I would not blame you if you had forgotten. I ate it as we stepped out of my apartment and out of the building. She put her hands up, carefree behind her head, as we walked about the streets of the city while I continued my lunch. So, I know you need to know where someone is, what their face looks like. You do and undo the mind control by putting your thumbs in your ears. I also don't call it mind control, I said in between bites. I call it a psychic possession attack. That's ridiculous, she said. She looked over her shoulder at me, smirked and shook her head. She made a sharp right turn into a parking garage. She stopped and inconspicuously pointed at the security guard who was falling asleep in his booth. She waited for a moment. I looked at him and back at her, very unsure of what she wanted from me. After a bit, she continued onward and unlocked a blue sedan. So, Let me ask you this, though. Do you need to know where your body is when you return from a psychic possession attack? She hopped into the car and patted the seat next to her. Against my better judgment, I hardly hesitated to get into the car. I thought about this. I just always knew where I had left my body when I launched an attack. The wheels in my head started to turn, though, as she turned out of the garage and badged a parking pass to open the gate. I guess I'll take over the security guard's body, give you 5 minutes to drive around, and then we'll find out, I said. My thoughts exactly. See you in 5. Or not, I said before plunging my thumbs into my ears. I jolted awake as I raised my new head off my new shoulder. The grogginess this time was taking a long time to wear off. That is what I thought, at least, before this guard's heavy eyelids gave away that he had not gotten a good night's sleep last night. I checked his watch. It was going to be a struggle to stay awake for 5 whole minutes. In this weary state, I felt a bit anxious about leaving my body with my most bitter rival. At least I was, until someone came up angrily tapping on the window. Excuse me, I parked here for an hour and 1 minute, and now the meter is trying to charge me for 2 hours of parking, an angry woman said. That's how that works, I said. Her face got redder and her brow more wrinkled as I thought she might start punching the glass. Why, I know the councilman who oversees the parking authority, and if you think you're going to get away with patronizing me like this, I might have to call my friends in City Hall. Good grief, lady, I thought to myself. Greg, whose name I learned by checking his wallet, was too tired to deal with any of this right now. He had about $11 in there, probably on account of not needing cash for anywhere in the city anymore. I checked the going rate for parking. $6 per hour? What an absolute steal. Less than a Goose Smart hoagie. What was this lady complaining about? Nonetheless, my 5 minutes were coming to a close, so I just handed the money over to her. Here, have a nearly full refund for your time here, I made Greg say. Thanks for being such a gracious customer. Now, if you'll excuse me, I spilled some coffee down here that I have to clean up. I watched the look on her face grow perplexed as she accepted the money through the little slit. She was clearly not used to having anyone reward her tantrums. I may have created a bigger monster by giving her positive reinforcement. As for Greg, he can consider that a minor sleeping-on-the-job fee. I dropped below the window, out of sight of this woman, and put Greg's thumbs into his ears. For the briefest moment, I panicked, remembering that I was not even sure that this was going to work. However, the next moment I sprung into Sasha's car and said, Fun fact number 14. I do not need to know where my body is to return to it from a psychic possession attack. Sasha was mid-turn and nearly hit the curb from my sudden outburst. Gosh, you don't have to come back in full throttle like that, dude. You nearly gave me a heart attack. That was also only like 3 minutes. Well, you could have fooled me. Greg doesn't get paid enough to put up with the people who use that garage. Plus, I had no idea we were anywhere near turning on 3rd, so it's all the same. I heard Sasha clicking her tongue. She was flustered and could not come up with a witty retort while focusing on the road. I picked up my sandwich from my lap to see that there were 2 additional bites taken out of it. Hungry, huh? I asked. Oh yeah, I didn't think you'd notice. I'm nothing if not perceptive. Is that right? She asked. Not perceptive enough to clock that your internet stalker was a Goose Smart cashier. Everyone has their blind spots. Speaking of, how does an internet sleuth such as yourself end up working as a low-wage cashier? She sighed. It all starts when you have to give up on your dreams of digital forensics and drop out of college before finishing your degree to take care of your little brother. The mood in the car almost immediately shifted to an awkward silence, as she continued on 3rd Street before taking a left. Seems like we were not going back to the parking garage, which was fine by me if that lady was still there. I felt a little bad for posing the question, but how on earth was I supposed to know that I was barking up the tree of tragedy with such an innocuous question? No sense in dancing around it, she eventually said. Messy divorce, so my dad hasn't been in the picture since I was 13. Prefers his new family out west. A few years after that, my mom was murdered while my sister and I were at a sleepover at our cousin's house. Killer left no trace. Case went cold almost immediately. Dad's alibi was solid. Not that he could ever do something like that. He's crappy, but not that kind of crappy. I paused thinking about what the best thing to say aside from, "Whoo boy, that's rough," which I thought might not go over well. Fortunately, I had no need to speak. If you're thinking it's incredibly ironic that someone studying forensics had their parents murdered in a cold case, I've thought it too. Not what I was thinking at all, I said. I'm sure you can go back to college at some point, take classes part-time, or maybe even... I was interrupted. Shush. Quick, next challenge, she said. She pulled up to a building with giant glass windows. She pointed at a particular window. It was tough with the sunlight, but I could just barely see a figure sitting at a desk in a corner office. The sign outside said Fern Financial and Perry Paul Acquisitions. It was some sort of financial advisory/investment firm that landed on a really solid acronym for their name. "And we're here for what now?" I asked. She pulled out a photo. There was a nerdy-looking, pale young guy in a tux, standing next to a younger Sasha in a light red dress. She looked great. The guy standing next to her had goofy round glasses and braces. She pointed at the dweeb. "This is Garrett Rousey," she said. "He's in that office there. His good grades and living mom had him graduate the top of his class in finance, and now he has a nice little office downtown. Would you mind trying to take a spin in his body for a bit?" "Ew, I don't like that phrasing," I said. "I can perform a psychic possession attack on him, but what are you looking to gain from this?" "It should be pretty self-evident, provided you can pull it off." I looked at her a bit confused. So long as Dorkface was actually the one in there, I would have no issues taking control of him. After only a short time, though, I knew better than to question her judgment on these things, so I simply plugged my thumbs into my ears and felt my spirit whisk out of me. On the other side, I found myself looking down an older gentleman, maybe in his late 50s. "So, what do you think? I know it's an aggressive investment, but I think this guy's got moxie. He reminds me a lot of you, a buff guy with big ambitions." I blinked a bit. There was a cell phone on the table. I took in a deep breath as if I was pretending to think, and leaned in to see my reflection. I saw a man with a nice full beard, tan skin, and since I felt no contacts, some eyes that were recently repaired with the power of laser eye surgery. What an absolute glow-up. Fun fact number 15. I can perform a psychic possession attack as long as I know what the person's face looked like at one point in time, even if it's completely different now. I almost got lost in his eyes before remembering that I had just been asked a question. I said, clearing Garrett's throat with an insanely masculine voice. "I appreciate you bringing this opportunity to us, but I'm not sure how much risk we're willing to take on right now." The older guy tilted his head. No, Mr. Rousey, we're talking about my money. Should I dump a portion of my retirement fund into this venture?" he asked. Yes, sorry. Mine being tugged every which way today," I said, trying to recover. "Well, since you're so close to retirement, you really shouldn't be putting too much money into anything speculative either." Not sure if it was the fact that this felt like a softball question, or if I somehow gained the confidence that Garrett surely gained with his own transformation. However, that confidence took a hit when the man looked to be disappointed. "I'm so confused," he said. "Last time you met, you said at this rate I would only have enough money to retire by the time I was 65, and that I would need to pursue some aggressive investments. I really don't want to keep working for the next 6 years given my health. I'd rather spend the time I have left with grandkids." I had to fight the urge to have Garrett bite his lip. Why was I now holding someone's financial future in my hands? There had to be a way to sneak out of this situation. The old slip and trip maneuver seemed to be the play, but before I could do anything, another person walked into the room. He was a tall black man with an eye patch and long gray hair braided behind his head. His hands were also crazy huge, like bigger than I had ever seen. The older man seemed excited to see him. "Here he is, Lawrence Rodney," he said. "This is the man with the peculiar investment opportunity." "Well, I wouldn't call it peculiar so much as novel," the man said. "The world is really about to see this elk powder stuff take off." "Oh, you gotta be kidding me." I pointed at the doorway that Lawrence had just come through. "Wait, did they seriously get Goosemart to cater the quarterly finance meeting?" I asked excitedly. Somehow, that worked and I put my thumbs back into my ears. I was going to let Garrett handle talking his client out of that investment. Sasha had apparently gotten bored and put on pop music in the meantime. As she saw me stir to life, she turned it down. "Hey, you're back," she said. "Has anyone ever told you you're cute when you sleep?" "No," I said. "But speaking of cute, I think what's really ironic is that he works in investing, because holy crap, talk about selling when you should have held." "Ugh, you're telling me," she said. "But you see what that was about, right? I thought for sure you wouldn't be able to possess him because of how different he looked. You were struggling with Ralph just because of the sunglasses, weren't you?" She was right. When Ralph was at Goosemart, he was wearing sunglasses, and I was not originally able to get a good view of his face. Yeah, I had been aware of that for a while now. I need to get an unobscured look at a person's face to be able to launch a psychic possession attack. The only exceptions being facial hair, scars, or other naturally occurring features. Fun fact number 16. I need to get an unobscured look at a person's face to be able to launch a psychic possession attack. The only exceptions being facial hair, scars, or other naturally occurring features. Just in case you didn't know. Luckily, I continued, I'm pretty good with faces, so I rarely forget one. That's a good skill in combination with your other skills, she said. All right, I just gotta drive to one more spot before I can tell you what my plan is. She drove past Garrett's office building, which she had been circling for the duration I had been in there. This plan of hers, it had me curious. She was setting up a series of circumstances to test the limits of my powers. She obviously had something very specific in mind. I wanted so badly to ask her what it was, but I knew she would not tell me until she was ready. I had a question for you, she said. I get why you targeted Ralph that day, but why did you immediately target Colin after? I shrugged. I read up on Ralph's socials a bit after the possession and saw he followed him. He looked like a real piece of work who deserved to be messed with. She nodded. Her face was quite solemn. When you were in control of him, you could have done a lot more than just humiliate him. You could have truly denounced his teachings, deleted his accounts, donated all of his money to a charity that helps domestic violence victims, or something like that. Why didn't you? Not sure what to say, I just shrugged again. I have some rules for what I use my powers for. I don't use them to try to truly harm others, do illegal things, or anything that would really bring the heat down on me. Colin's a tool, and I messed with him for being one. That's really all that was warranted. Even if I took him out of the picture, some other tool would take his place, so what would even be the point? She stayed completely expressionless as we drove down in silence for a while. No part of me, given the lead-up, thought that she would like that answer, but it was the honest one. I had no holier-than-thou purpose to my actions, and I would not pretend that I did. I was worried he might say something like that, she sighed. I won't mince words, Eric. I think that's really selfish of you. You saw firsthand the way his actions corrupted people, and had a chance to make things right and didn't take it. Right. So what do you suggest then? I asked. You want me to spend my days hijacking the mind of every bad person in the world? How long does that go on until someone in a position of power gets wise to it? Until I'm locked in a cage somewhere, blindfolded and used by the government to carry out atrocities. This power is dangerous, and I'm not smart enough to use it to affect real change. Well, I am, she said, slamming the brakes before a red light. I looked over at her, and she had a look of determination on her face, a look that told me she was dead serious. This was some serious confidence that surely bordered on arrogance. The light turned green, and she drove again. I made up my mind then and there. She and I could not coexist. The first opportunity I got, I was going to have to possess her. I would figure out from there how to incapacitate her and her friend. This is what I thought when she pulled up to a courthouse. Last challenge. I need you to spot a lawyer and take control of their mind and then call my number. Can you commit it to memory real quick? She asked. Sure, easily. I'm not even sure what you're testing here, I said. Your short-term memory across minds and ability to communicate info accurately through someone else's eyes. All right, see you on the other side. I went to plug my thumbs into my ears, and right before I did, I turned my glance to her and smiled. Fun fact number 17. There is no visible indication of who I am about to possess before I launch a psychic possession attack. It is as effective as someone 100 yards away as it is on someone right next to me. I took control of Sasha's mind and came to in the driver's seat. Sorry, Sasha. I should have done this a lot earlier, but I was having fun picking your brain. Now that I can see you have no interest in me for anything other than manipulating my powers, I think it's time to end our relationship. Hey, sis, is he out now? I felt Sasha's body jolt as the voice rang into an earbud in her left ear. She had been on the line with someone, presumably her younger brother, this whole time, likely since I first possessed Greg. No problem. In fact, this made me feel a lot better. She was almost certainly bluffing about having an online friend keep tabs on her. This was a cover to prevent me from going after her brother. Yeah, he's gone now, I made her say. All right, Godfrey's bail hearing is in courtroom 2A, so make sure you get him over there to get a look at his face. Since you already got him to look at Lawrence's face, we should be able to execute our plan after this. Execute their plan? Lawrence? That was the guy in the financial office. This whole experiment was a series of tricks to try to prepare me for something underhanded. I came so close to falling for it, too. She played towards my weakness, which is the curiosity of exploring my powers. But now none of it mattered. She made a seriously unforced error, which was letting me get this close to something important to her. I pulled open her phone. She had a long password, but I could feel her thumbs itching towards the keys as I pulled it out. Sorry, Sasha. Guess you should have spent more time actually learning what I can do when I get into someone's head. I opened her Photos app. It took me a little time to find a photo of herself and her brother. Her phone tagged him as Micah. There was a photo of Micah sitting in a computer chair in his room, ground floor in an apartment. I moved to a navigation app and punched in the option for home. I knew exactly where this was, just around the corner from where I went to high school. All I needed to do was to pin Micah as being in that room. "Hey, and by the way," I heard Micah say, "you should go easier on him. He's not a bad guy. I think he's good at heart. It must be overwhelming to have a power like that. You should just admit to him that you think he's really cute and you like him." And now when the two of you rehearsed this, did you really think that part was going to work? There was dead silence on the other end. "Dork," he said. "Dork? Now that's not nice to say about people, Micah." "You're a dork. Get your dork mind out of my sister's body or I'll tell Wide Colin and his cronies where you live. I have her Chaos account pulled up right here." "No, you don't. You're bluffing." "I am not. I have it literally right here." "If that's true, then I know exactly where in your apartment you are. That should be cause for you to be a bit concerned, don't you think?" "Nope. Nice try. I'm not about to give you any hints as to where I am. You have 3 seconds to let my sister go or you're dead. 3? You shouldn't say that to someone who can literally see you through that window." "Not working on me. Unless I hear both of you talking at the same time, I'm going to put you on blast. 2. "Okay, fine. Just a minute, this earbud's in the way of my thumbs." I relented, took Sasha's earbuds out, and put my thumbs into her ears. After a moment, she shook back to being awake, immediately on edge as she realized what had happened. She turned to me and grabbed me, shaking. I did not move. "You prick," she said. "You took control of me." Seeming to think more thoroughly about it, she picked her earbud back up and put it into her ear. "Micah, are you okay?" she asked. "Micah, no, it's me, Sasha, your sister." "What? No, he's still conked out. Hold on." She started hitting me, but again I did nothing. She seemed a bit panicked. "No, Micah, I swear I'm not still in his control. Don't do it yet. He's just not waking up. If I were him, I would know that you were still in your room by your computer." "Bingo," I said. I plugged my thumbs into my ears, and with only a few moments of delay, I found myself waking up in a room in front of a computer with a phone on speaker. He was not bluffing. He had the emergency memo ready to go, and he was about to send it out. Better delete that. Eric, you get out of his head." "Sorry, sis," I said. "This is exactly why I don't use my powers on anyone except for complete buffoons normally. Anyone can slip up like that. I don't care how smart you think you are. I think we can call this game a tie, don't you think?" I heard her let out a frustrated huff on the other end. "Drop me off at my apartment. No tricks either. I'll be launching my psychic possession attack on you first to make sure everything is kosher. I can easily get back into your nice apartment if there's any funny business." There was nothing but static on the other end. I thought about the possibility that she could be unhinged and try to attack my body while it was defenseless. Fun fact number 18. I have no idea what happens to my consciousness if my body dies while engaging in a psychic possession attack. In theory, if my consciousness stays alive, I could perpetually hop from body to body for as long as I can go without one of them passing out on me. I thought through my options. I had more leverage now if I wanted to switch back to Sasha. However, it would not take much for Micah to get into another room without me noticing it. If Sasha bolted for it, I could at least hear the car door and take control before she gets out of a radius where my possessions would be viable. There was no doubt in my mind that Sasha was doing all this math as well. Micah's phone buzzed. I picked it up. Sasha had texted him a photo of a man smoking a cigarette by the bus stop, his face clear despite the camera's less than stellar quality. "Let's just talk. I don't want anyone to do anything they'll regret." Neutral turf? Seems fair enough. Without even verbally responding, I just put Micah's thumbs into his ears and took over this innocent smoker's body. Sasha had her eyes on me from the car, and I could tell she clocked the moment I was there with her. I walked up to the car and she rolled down the window. Despite the man's nicotine addiction nearly overwhelming me, I managed to drop the cigarette and step on it. "So," I said, the stranger's voice sounding so bad given his habit, "what are the terms of our truce here?" "I need you to do the thing I originally brought you here to do," she said. "I need you to kill Godfrey Smith, or as you might know him, Alpha Omega." I chuckled a bit. "The religious dude bro streamer in Colin's circle?" I asked. "What do you have it out for that Bible thumper for?" "He's on trial now for killing his wife, but the prosecution has fumbled it at every point. Let key testimony and evidence get thrown out. He should be dead to rights, but instead he's about to walk free." "I told you, Sasha. I don't use my powers for things like this. If you want to kill me, you're on your own. I'll be taking my body out of this car now." "About that. We're kind of in this together now," she said. I paused, looking at her with grim apprehension. And why is that? I may have just sent him a private message with your name, address, and all other details of your identity, and let him know you're the mind controller? Thank you for listening to this chapter of Fun Facts and Psychic Possession Attacks. If you enjoyed, please rate the podcast, give it a like on YouTube, or share with someone else who you think might also enjoy. You can stay up to date with FF&PPA by following us on social media. That will be D2 Stories on just about any of the major platforms. Thanks again for listening, and I hope to have you listen again next week.